So I'm coming up to the roundabout. I've come out from by the test centre, went left at the first roundabout, and then turned left and turned right, and now we're coming out of the industrial estate itself. So as you come into this, I'm going to exit in the left lane, but then I'm going to move across the right lane. They are marked, but you really can't see very well that they're marked. So in that instance, the examiner needs to tell you which lane to use if they want you to get in this right lane. Then I'm going to head towards town centre on the sign. So as I'm coming up to a roundabout, whenever you come up to any roundabout, assess the roundabout on the approach, because if you assess it properly, you'll be able to do that, drive straight into it. So I could see where all the traffic was coming from. There was a massive gap. I could drive into it, swap into a left signal, and bringing it onto the road here. Now the problem with this one, it's a 30 limit. Lots of people don't think it's a 30. I need to move into the left lane. There's a van hovering around on my left. No, he's going to just try and overtake me. As you can see, check around. The problem is this road, you come out of a 70 limit or a 60 limit, and then you come into this, and people just assume it's still a 60, and it's very difficult to move over. So you're going to need to move lanes anyway to go where we're going, which is the second exit on here, going towards the town centre. So again, on the approach to the roundabout, I'm watching the roundabout from a distance. I'm checking my mirrors, I'm slowing down. No signal on the approach. There's two cars coming around. I'm going after the Audi because there's a gap after that. You've got to have an offset to the car, so it doesn't matter if they're in a different lane on a roundabout. You can't just pull into the lane next to them, because they might want to come off on the next exit, the same exit that you might want to come off on. So you've got to make sure that there is actually an offset gap, even if it's across a couple of lanes. Right, so we're going to follow it down. Keeping an adequate gap to this car in front. Slowed down, so when I slow down I check my mirrors, picking up the pace again, checking my mirrors, watching well ahead, so both the cars in front are going faster than 30, so if I just followed them I'd end up speeding. So I'm sat at 30. You can see they're kind of disappearing up the road, so you've got to be careful, make sure you're actually paying attention to your speed as you're coming down these sort of roads. Just keep watching. So as you're driving along the road like this, you're constantly assessing, making decisions on what you're going to do. So at the minute, my decision is that I can drive along at the speed limit because there's nothing to slow me down. But when you come out to a bend, traffic lights, a hazard, then that will change. But you can only know if it's going to change by actually assessing in front. What's in front? So we come up to this, keep left. It goes into a strange double lane section here. I'm checking there's no bicycles in the bike lane. And checking my mirrors again because the van behind is actually using the right hand lane, although he had no intention of going around me, he just chose to use it instead of using the left lane. So we're going to take a left here at this mini roundabout. It's a mirror check, it's a signal, I'm watching what's happening. So you know, you're doing your tests, you need to be watching everything. You need to watch this person on the left in case they try and turn and cross. You need to be looking at the mini roundabout, so currently the car in front should be able to go, and then there's a van on my right which is going to turn right, but it's taking so long to turn right it didn't actually pull away, so that means I can continue. And following it down. So here I'm just going to tuck in a little bit, checking my mirrors, bringing it out a little bit more. And you can see as you move over, the vehicle's coming the other way, move over, check my mirror to bring it in. So you're checking the car doesn't move off that's next to you, you're checking there's no motorbikes whenever you're trying to dive up on your right hand side or your left hand side. So as you come up here to the traffic lights, it's going to be a right at the traffic lights. So slowing down for this guy, he's going to reverse, but I'm going to slow down because someone could just drive around him coming from the other direction. Again, it's a mirror check, it's a right signal, so here you've got to put yourself in the correct position. You can see there's a big arrow on the floor, so it's not too difficult. And wait for a gap. Check my mirror to the right before I go, and then put it away. Pretty straightforward. Checking my mirrors, bringing it round. So yeah, they're going to wait. If they don't, they can get through this bit. There you go. And checking my mirrors again, bringing it over. So like something like that, the only bit that you couldn't really get through was the bit where they were trying to wait with the cars parked on either side. Beyond that, where I was, it was more than enough space to get past. The van coming now, so I'm slowing down because I could see even from there, yeah, he's sort of driving down the middle of the road when he's got plenty of space. So you just got to watch out. You never know what anyone's going to do, so you can't assume anything. So we're carrying on down. Again, checking the mirrors, watching this chap because he might want to step straight in the middle of the road. And continuing to follow it down. You can see ahead there's plenty of space, so I'm moving slightly to the left to allow that car to come past because it's made a move to drive down here. Same with the next one. So we keep it out. You can see, oh, they almost hit that car. Okay. So we're going to go left here. And I'm going to pull myself up on the left. And I'm going to tell myself to do a parallel park. So I'm going to use the vehicle in front. So whenever I'm ready, I'm going to move off and I'm going to do the parallel park. Okay, so it's part of the test. So I'm going to run around a test route in the test area. Obviously, subject to examiner's discretion, they can take different routes if they so wish. Test routes often run around bus lanes because risk assessments. Obviously, if a bus can run down it, they can use it for a driving test as well. But obviously, they can deviate if the test is too long, etc. It's a test area basically, so it's routes within that area. So I'm going to do a parallel park on this car, checking around, making sure it's clear, and we're good to go at the minute. So as I always say, what you do when you go forwards is what you do when you go backwards. So I pull up alongside, nice and straight, checking round, putting the car in reverse, full observations, bring it in, keep checking round. If anyone's walking, I would stop. I wouldn't just carry on driving. So if someone's behind the car, pulling it in, I'm going to tell myself to ignore the driveway. That's it. There we go. And we're in. Done. Okay, and now move off when you're ready. Checking round, no one about, I'm not going to signal because there's literally nobody here at all. And we put it back out, which is exactly the same manoeuvre that I just did going backwards, now going forwards. Okay, so I'm going to go right at the end of the road. Always make sure you're checking both directions. As you can see, the road to the left is closed. Tight gap, but there's plenty of space to go through. Just drive through normally, checking round, checking mirrors. So this bend, I'd be slowing down a little bit. I can't really see through it. There could be someone reversing off a drive trying to cross the road, so you would not go through this quickly. Coming up again, checking my mirrors. Got to be ultra careful because there's a junction there, and if someone comes out and doesn't check, it'd be quite easy for them to swing straight out to the left, and of course I'm on the wrong side of the road. Checking the mirrors, go around the parked car, keep an eye on the junction, and carrying on down. So as we get to the bottom, I'm going to turn right, so slowing it right down, checking my mirrors, trying to look through the gaps the side of this scaffolding lorry, make sure there's nothing there. Gentleman on a bike who, what's he going to do? Oh, he's actually going to turn into the road, but he's just not going to bother to give me any indication at all. Now this car has decided that it was going to wait, and it's not going to wait any longer, probably because I took longer because of the bicycle who didn't want to indicate. Okay, so left at the end of the road. Tricky little junction. Got to look over the top of the wall, so you position firmly at the give way lines. Oh no, they've decided to turn right. There you go. So just while I was waiting there was a car coming down the road, and at the last minute it decided to brake and then turn right, put its right signal and pull into the middle. So whatever you're doing, it's just got to be the correct thing. Again, here I'm slowing down because there's a blind bend. I'm going around the parked cars on the wrong side of the road. Check my mirrors to come back in. Same here, I've got 2 parked cars and a blind brow. See there's a car coming there, but I'm nice and slow, and they should be doing exactly the same thing because they should also be able to see it's a blind brow. So, carry on down the hill. You're going to have to control your speed on a hill like this, either by engaging a lower gear, using some brakes. In a modern car, to be quite honest, using your brakes is absolutely fine. So we come into the bottom, we'll turn right at the bottom, check my mirrors, put my signal on, got a few parked cars around, looking for people crossing, looking for people turning into the complete wrong side of the road and cutting the entire corner off. Which is why you've always got to expect that potentially something could happen. Now I've got a bus waiting to turn in, got to wait for this bicycle though. So he blocked the whole road off, the bus, because he was waiting to turn in. Now we've got the bicycle. Now it's an interesting one with bikes. He's going to go up onto the cycle lane, which is also the pavement, but he's going quite quick. I mean, I'm doing 30 now and I'm only just going past because he's going downhill, which means that you've got to be very careful on how you pass them, because you need to leave a 1.5 metre gap, and you could just look at them and think, oh, I'll easily get round, and actually you could be on the wrong side of the road for quite a long time. So checking the mirror, slowing down, we're going to go straight across second exit. Roundabout is not clear because there is a moped coming, and I'm going to position the car here. Don't want to go right over to the left because the road is covered in debris and dirt. Again, looking at my mirrors, there was a car behind me which went into the right hand lane and then went round the roundabout in the right hand lane, sort of right near the back of my car, but actually just went the same way as me. Lots of parking in this section. Slowing it down, can't go into the bus lane, and checking my mirrors to make sure that there is nothing coming down the bus lane. So at the traffic lights, if you're on your test, they don't need to say anything at all because as you can see, it's left only. So as you come up to it, give it a check, make sure there's no blue lights or anything whizzing through, and coming around the corner, and just slow it down. There we go. So follow it into the one-way system. So the first part of this one-way system for us, watch out for big vehicles like that as they swing wide. Obviously the zebra crossing. Yeah, the first part of the one-way system we can drive straight into. I do need to change lanes. So as soon as I get to the end of the hatch marking, I'm going to move across, which will allow this person who's been literally sat about an inch off my back bumper through there to overtake me. As you can see, he's off. He's gone flying past. And as we come round, we're going to take the next road on the right. Somebody crossing, just stood in the road. Okay, we're going to turn in. We're going to take the left lane of the 2. And then when we go out of this, we're also going to go out to the left lane. So you can see it's right only, green light. We're going to go across to this lane. And then up to the red light. So it was a good example actually there of why, so if you're on a driving test and that woman was trying to cross the road there and you just turn in and then slam your brakes on the last second, why you'd get a serious fault for it, because, or even a dangerous fault, because you should have been looking into the road and making sure it's clear before you turned into it. You are constantly assessing what's in front of you and making a decision. Now, if your direction of travel is into a road on your right or left or wherever and you can't see into it, then you need to make sure you can see into it before you actually turn into it. Don't just dive into it and guess that it's probably clear, because that, unfortunately, will only work some of the time. Now there's someone in the road here. I've got a car on my right because I'm in the one-way system, and then they're going to try and pull across because there's a parked car. So we're coming up to the traffic lights. Obviously it's left only, as you can see. So we're following the left lane still. Still got a car hovering around on the right side. And now they're going to pull up alongside at the traffic lights. So currently red, stop nice and firm at the line. You don't want to try and stop early and then move up to the line when the lights are red. It needs to be a single stop. Two people crossing the road, so because they're already on the road, you need to let them cross. The person next to me actually accelerated at them, which is interesting. So we're going to follow it through here, and then we're going to take the next road on the right. So yeah, we're following it up, making sure it's clear. Got a post office van, a Mazda through. Give them a wave, and as I always say, you can give people a wave. You can take your hand off the steering wheel. I mean, I didn't actually take my hand off the steering wheel then, I just raised my hand up because I could, but you do need to make sure that you do say thank you because it's polite. So I'm going to take the next road on the right here. As you can see, there's somebody crossing the road, so I need to let them clear. And once they're clear, I'll turn it in. So as we go up, we're now going to take the next road on the right here. So you can see lots of parked cars. You just got to work out if someone comes the other way. You've got to look for gaps all the way along. So there's a lovely big gap there. So here I slow it down a bit, and there you go, perfectly timed. I can wait in this gap, these cars can move into it, and then I can continue. There you go. As easy as that. And if you weren't watching, you could end up obviously driving into the gap. Always check on a road like this because it's quite possible someone might pull out. And I'm going to take the next left. So you can see very tight corner, pigeon in the road. Lots of parked cars, so just make sure you're watching all the parked cars. Checking the mirrors, checking it's clear. Checking ahead because obviously someone could reverse out of one of those spaces. So, I'm going to turn right at the end of the road here. Make sure it's clear. A little bit of a tricky junction. Going to the correct side of the road. There's a van moving around, so just keep an eye on that. And then up to the junction and turning right. Again, coming up to it. Make sure it's clear. Lots of parked cars. They do like a parked car on a driving test, but it makes you think. Makes the driver who is on test think about what they're going to do. So like here, you've got to look at the gaps. You've got to think, what is that taxi doing? There's a van with an indicator on. You've got to constantly be thinking, well, what am I going to do next? So the van's pulled out, or the taxi's pulled out. The van, I think, it's probably got its hazard lights on. Again, give this taxi driver a wave. As you can see, there's no entry down there. Can't go straight on down there. Round through the parked cars. And left at the end. Checking around, we're all good. And then at the end, nothing needs to be said here in terms of directions, because as you'll see when we get to the end, it's one way. Now the question of whether you would signal here is entirely dependent on whether it's beneficial for anyone. So would it be beneficial to this chap trying to cross the road if I was signalling left? No. Would it be beneficial for cars already on the road? No. So realistically, the only benefit would be if there was somebody trying to cross the road to my left and they weren't aware it's a one-way street. However, it is such a busy road, that's fairly unlikely. So I'm not going to signal. I'm going to wait for a gap. So bring it up. Yeah, well, we've got a lovely clear run out. So straight the way up. And as you can see, we're into a 20 zone. So it's a proper 20 limit. Got to go around this solid white line for the cycle lane. Got these speed humps, which unfortunately just scrape the bottom of the car. Thankfully, it's only the plastic under tray they scrape, but they're a bit too high, and you don't really actually bump over the top of them. A wheel goes either side, and they just scrape the bottom of the car, so they're not the best. And the same with the next one. So every speed up, you check your mirrors, you slow down to the speed you want. Now I'm accelerating back up to 20, so we're set at 20. It's a change of speed limit coming up, so as I come up to it, check my mirrors, and I pick the pace up. Why am I checking my mirrors? Well, somebody could try and overtake me on even a bicycle at that sort of speed, but a motorbike, got all sorts of electric bicycles nowadays which are completely illegal, but people whiz around on them. No play. So essentially, check your mirrors. Someone could be alongside you. You don't want to accelerate and leave them stranded on the wrong side of the road. Could also be some sort of blue light vehicle. So I'm coming up here. You can see from a distance that there's some vehicles with yellow flashing lights. Network rail, apparently. So keeping it slow, watching out, and deciding whether I go through. I'm going to hold back because the second van is sticking out a bit further than the first. And it's a little bit tight. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, the first van was fine, but the second van wasn't. So as we come up, coming up to a mini roundabout, I'm going to go straight on, just following the road ahead. Checking my mirrors, slowing down. Check there's no one coming from the right, check the car in front isn't indicating, we're all good. Of course, it doesn't mean someone won't suddenly swing round and drive at you without an indicator on, because it happens all the time. So be extremely vigilant that somebody's not going to do that. And it's why when you go across a mini roundabout, even if it looks like it's completely clear and the car that's coming from the other side looks like it's going to drive straight across, you need to slow down, because if they suddenly decide they're just going to turn right, you'll end up having a big accident. Checking my mirrors, slowing down. There's a bicycle lane, broken white line, but there's plenty of space for me not to drive in it, so I won't. Again, mirror check. Need to check there's no bicycles coming down that bicycle lane. I'm going to go straight across this. So again, checking my mirrors because I am moving over, although it's a right lane. Now I need to make sure no one's coming from behind this wall, and we're good. Run my wheel just across that edge, looking well ahead. Obviously the zebra crossing is clear and cars coming the other way. There's nothing much to obstruct them. Someone in the road. Bicycle on the other side. That's a problem, because if the car the other way just dives onto the wrong side of the road, they could end up driving at you. Otherwise, I've assessed it's clear. I'm just going to carry on down. Somebody crossing there, but he's a long way away. And we just go straight. So coming up the end of this, there's a mini roundabout, and and when I get there I'm going to go straight across, first exit, straight across. It's a real tricky roundabout because the road to the right is really blind when you pull up to it, so you really can't see what's coming because there's a house in the way. So you can just see as we're coming up to it now, essentially the road that joins this roundabout from the right is parallel to this, so this house that you can just see on the right completely blocks your view as to what is coming. So I've got to slow right down and it's clear. Now the biggest problem with this roundabout is that sometimes people will come up there and they will literally just aim across it at speed, and you can't see them until the very last second. So as I come up to this, I'm going to aim into the right hand lane, checking my mirrors, bringing it over to the right, check there's nothing coming, and bringing it around. So I aimed it into the right hand lane so that when I get into this bit I'll be on the right. If you're on a test, then the examiner needs to tell you what lane to get into if there is no possible way of you knowing what lane to get into in a situation where there's no markings or whatever, no sign. So we're turning right on this because it's now right only, and that's why I got into this lane, so I can turn right. So the cars in front are going to go, there's a lovely big gap, there's still a nice big gap. You know, your judgment of speed is very important. So as we come around, checking mirrors, left signal. So you really need to make sure that you practice your judgment of speed a lot. And when I say judgment of speed, I mean watching cars come round a roundabout, down a road when you're pulling out of a junction, and you need to assess how fast they're going and make sure that you understand whether you can pull out into a gap that is created by those vehicles driving down the road. Because if you misjudge that speed, then you could pull out in front of somebody who's going much faster than you think, or you might think there's a gap, but the second vehicle could be going much, much quicker than the first. It's a constant process of judging speed. And for anybody that crosses the road on foot, you probably already know how to judge speed of cars. So you have to apply that same knowledge to all junctions. So checking my mirrors because the two lanes go into one. This road's a 40 limit. Avoiding the solid white line. It's almost entirely worn off the road, but it does get slightly brighter as you go along. And I think the camera picks it up more than you can actually see it on the road. And when it's raining, you can barely see it at all. You can't cross it, it's a solid white line. And I'm going to go straight across the next roundabout towards Felixstowe A14. Again, glance my mirrors. Right, I'm starting to assess the roundabout. So yeah, the blue Kia can go, the red Audi can't. Now the red Audi can go, and so can I. Mirrors and a left signal. And then follow it down. Checking my mirrors there as I bring it out as well. They've repainted all that and it makes it a bit of a slalom. Driving into me. So you can see I'm keeping a reasonable gap to the car in front. And if you want to know how far behind you are a car, just find a fixed object and then count to whatever it is you want to count to. So you've got to add a word in to make it 1 second. I always use elephant. So here's a lamppost, so I'll go 1 elephant, 2 elephant. So probably 2.5 seconds, something like that. I'm behind this car. So we're coming up to the next roundabout, and we're coming towards the end of the test now, so I'm going to follow second exit A14 on the signs. Checking the mirrors there as well because of the cycle lane, aiming for the left lane as I come up to this bit, slowing it right down. Checking the roundabout. So yeah, plenty of space. So the reason I have plenty of space is because I was watching the other side of the roundabout. I could see the cars coming from what is the second exit, but coming straight across to where I was. and I could see that they were blocking off the big queue of cars to my right. So the cars to my right could not move off because cars from the straight ahead were coming across. Always got to remember that a car that blocks, it's not necessarily blocking at the point that it drives across the front of the cars that are to your right, because at that point you should already be moving. So you need to move when you can see that the car coming from straight ahead or from your left and going right and going into the same exit as you, when you can see that that car, the fact that it's there, has stopped the vehicles to your right. Because if you move off at the same time they're going past the vehicles that it was holding up, you're actually probably moving off at exactly the same time as the cars to your right, so you're both going to join the roundabout at the same time. So I'm going to take the third exit on this roundabout. Need to put your signal on quite early because the lane splits right the way across into 3 nowadays. Didn't used to, it used to be 2. So they can go, and actually I can drive straight into it. Again, there's cars moving around this roundabout, but a massive gap. You'd be expected to use these gaps. If an examiner can see it, then they know you could have used it at the end of the day. And it's the same when I'm teaching people. If I'd have come up to that and someone had stopped dead, I'd be questioning why, because there was a huge gap to drive into. Huge. Right, so as we come up, we're coming back towards the test centre now, into the industrial estate. We're going to take the second exit on this roundabout. So just coming up to it, going to take the second exit. This roundabout, you can watch the traffic again. If it's over, right over to the left side of as they come round the roundabout, then they're not coming your way. Yeah, lovely big gap again. So second exit, left signal now. Bring it off, nice and easy. And follow it back to the test centre. So test centre is just straight ahead, straight across this roundabout, across all the speed humps, and then a left and you're there. So that is another Ipswich test. And don't forget this speed up. Check your mirrors, slow it down, and don't crash into it.